Hello and welcome back to the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast. My name is Lindsay Walker, and today we have a very, very special guest episode. I know that these are a little brand new, and I am just so excited to be bringing my favorite people on planet Earth to you all, to my listeners on this show. So today we have Genevieve St. Michelle. She is a yoga and breathwork teacher and an embodied life coach. And I actually met Genevieve just a year ago at our breathwork training. And truly, this past year, I never even knew that I was going to really get to know her so well and be able to call her such a good friend today. And I am just so, so grateful that she is joining us today on the podcast. So, welcome, Genevieve, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. I can't believe we are celebrating our 1 year anniversary. It actually
Right?
happened in March when we met. So we would have just been getting home from teacher training. I think we went the 14th to the 17th, if
Yeah.
I'm correct. So here we are meeting again a year later. Of course, we've chatted a bunch in between, but the one thing that stood out with me from Lindsay at training was she showed up for herself. And so inevitably, I showed up for myself and then showed up for her over the past year. So she supported me while I taught my first yoga classes in front of a very intimidating at the time group of fellow facilitators. And now we've become thick as thieves over here. So I'm really excited to share some juicy topics about what's been going on in life and why we're here radiating so bright. And I couldn't have done it without this amazing support of the beautiful woman on the other side of the screen.
Oh, you are the sweetest. Thank you so much. And honestly, I don't think at the time when you were leading those yoga classes at teacher training, I don't think I knew that those were some of your first ones. I mean, I had just heard that you were going to be the yoga teacher, and I was like, oh, cool. I mean, obviously, like, I didn't know anyone except for my mom there. And, it was like very much put on us, like, hey, you must show up for like bonus points in the morning. So I was all about the like bonus points, getting all the extra credit. So like me and my mom were like, we will show up at the crack of dawn for this yoga class. And it was honestly the best. I'm so glad you were the one leading it. Obviously, I didn't really know you that well at the time, but it was just such an incredible day or such an incredible way to start the day in that training. And a lot of it was just your energy, the way that you showed up, and you're just like a very grounding, you still are a very grounding presence, a very grounding energy to start off those crazy days, that crazy week. And I'm just really grateful that you were the one to be there to really anchor in that energy for the day. I think the people that started with you really felt that. I know I definitely did. And so I'm just really grateful that that was our introduction to each other because I felt like that was just kind of the start of the connection that I didn't even know was going to become something later. So, yeah, I can't
Right?
believe it's been a year. Like, what?
Woo, celebration.
I know. And I'm
Yeah.
glad I didn't like think about it when we planned this. It just kind of happened. And I was like,
hmm
oh my gosh, it's been a whole year. Like, that's wild. So I love that. It's like a 1 year anniversary
Yeah,
celebration.
it's definitely worth it to celebrate. And I remember leading those sessions at the training was incredible because I had just formed my business back in February. So my business was a month old. This was the first paycheck written to my business. And I was like, this is incredible. I would have done this for free regardless. And I just remember that gave me so much confidence to lead further sessions because of the feedback I got from complete strangers, right? It's so intimidating. Strangers that became family. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. I got chills. So you were obviously pretty new to yoga, at least teaching yoga a year ago. And again, I had no idea. None of us had any idea. You did such an incredible job. And I remember watching you at training too, and you just had this amazing stage presence. And I could see it. It would kind of like come in and out. We would do some of the activities and I could see it fully. And then you would kind of like retreat a little bit and it would come out again and you would retreat a little bit. But what really was the thing that got you into yoga and interested in breath work and all of these healing modalities? Like, what was the thing that got you to this place?
So I would say I had a false identity for pretty much my entire life until about, oof, early 20s. I really forged this pathway for myself to provide for my mom. So I actually had a whole career in HVAC, and it was a very masculine-led trade. I was the first to graduate from my high school and actually obtain a job in the field after 30 years. So that was like huge. And I did some pipe fitting, so I would put up like sprinkler sets in office buildings. And I remember just always being in these new environments and being like, A, I'm killing my body, but B, I'm curious like what's on beyond this door. So a lot of times I found myself in restaurants. So then I picked up bartending, which was an easy transition, but yet again, still a little bit debilitating on the body. And slowly but surely, I moved across the world. I'm telling the story a little bit out of order, sorry. I was in HVAC for a while, moved across the world, went to California, was in a very unhealthy relationship, but it taught me a lot of lessons. Without that relationship, I would have not found yoga. So I'm actually
Mm.
grateful I went through that trauma because the only thing that got me home and safe was this group out there called Yoga on the Bluff. And it was a free yoga that they offered right by the ocean, the most beautiful, serene setting. And that was my only safe space. I moved out there with someone who was my only person. At the time, my whole family was on this coast. I was on the West Coast. And it was really intimidating to go home to someone that didn't value you anymore. So I
Mhm.
moved on from that, um, started going to more yoga classes, and then actually hotel hopped and then jumped all the way home. Now I was jobless. I was like, I am not going back in the trade. I am going to pursue this yoga. And I was a little hesitant, started working in restaurants, bartending, and then I mustered up some more money and dived into training, got certified, and was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this full time. Then I started a business, and then I got to lead over in March of last year. So that was a little bit about what got me into it, but yoga really saved my life. And then breath work went even deeper, where we were certified together, Lindsay and I, because I hadn't dealt with the trauma. I thought I was on my mat, but I needed to peel back the
Mm.
layers a little bit more. And so that was that final step to at least get inside. And I released some crazy stuff out there. And I remember, yeah, it was just wild. But and now we're
Wow.
here.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And I love hearing when you're saying like there, because I have a similar experience with like a past relationship where it like wasn't great, but it led me into things that really allowed me to propel my life forward. So, I very much resonate with when you're saying like, there was something maybe in the past, specifically relationship that kind of led you for you, it was yoga, and look at how much that really changed your life. And so I think this resonates with a lot of people, whether you're in it or whether you have been in a situation that maybe wasn't the best scenario. A lot of times it's a romantic relationship. It doesn't have to be. It could also be a job or a friendship or things like that. And you look back and think, wow, like, why was I in that? But if you actually see what came of that, oftentimes it's usually what births your rebirth, your next evolution. It leads you into the thing that is part of your soul's purpose. It really feels like that for you in this scenario as well.
Totally agree. And it's hard when you're in it, right? Don't get me wrong. I was out there totally in denial that my relationship was unhealthy. And then I realized like there's no love happening. I'm not loving myself, so therefore I can't be loved by anyone. And that's what practices like yoga and breath work and mindful work really get you in your own body and thinking for yourself because who we're around is who we become. So I started to embody this personality that I was not. I was very vicious and violent to my temple and I no longer resonated with that. And even during it, I was a little bit hesitant. But again, when you're in that setting, right, you just become your environment. So it might take longer than you think. It took me 6 years of working in the trade to realize this was not what I wanted to do. And your visions and your dreams change as you evolve. So my mindset was never like, I can do this feminine thing and lead this amazing business. I never thought I had that power. Well, truth is, I did and I'm learning it every day and adding to it and building it. And so, similar to you, right? At one point, you were like, I'm not going to work for someone, I can work for myself because I have this unique gift that I can share with the world. So, what made you
Yeah.
get into your work?
Oh, you're asking me?
Hmm.
Oh gosh, it was a very well, for me, it was a lot of just my own health issues, really. I mean, it was like, hey, my body's breaking down. I don't think my like realization for self-love came until like later, actually. So I think that's
Mm.
interesting because I always love talking to with people to see like how they got into this work of what was the really driving factor? I'm around a lot of people that it's like, hey, their health crashed and that's what got them in. So you're really interesting when you're saying like, you actually started to realize there was just a lack of love for like yourself and the relationship that you were in. And that's when you started to look for something new because you were saying like this just isn't it. So yeah, for me, it was really my health challenges that got me into this. And it was kind of just a spiral after that. I use this analogy a lot when I'm explaining kind of the evolution of awareness of getting into different modalities. And you're really interesting because you're the way I'm gonna explain this analogy is something new. So the way I got into it was through my health challenges. So I see that as a root chakra, and it was kind of like the root chakra went up. When you tell me that you got into it from a like self-love, self-respect, looking for love type of scenario, that feels very much heart chakra related. And there are other people who get into this from a very psychic, spiritual lens. And so they are connecting to the divine, they're connecting to source, they're connecting to spirit, they're connecting to God, whatever you want to call it. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh, I have a body and I have to like come back down. So they're like starting at the crown and coming down. I don't talk to many people who I feel like start at the heart. So from this analogy standpoint, starting at the love piece. So I think that's really interesting. So if we take this analogy of like starting at the heart versus starting at the root or starting at the crown, and then making your way through your level of spiritual awareness and spiritual awakening, I guess. Do you feel like after the self-love part of really being in that heart energy, do you feel like you went up, or did you go down? Did you go up for your purpose, your spiritual gifts, or did you go down more into your body, into your creativity?
I feel like it was a little bit of a seesaw. I kind of went both.
Okay.
And I then went, but then I would say I went down towards the root because I started doing inner child work. So I started going even deeper of why this trauma of self-neglect, lack of love really existed. And that was the most eye-opening chapter of my life because then it allowed me to be more present and be like, whoa, wait a minute. I continue to repeat these patterns because I haven't healed. And so, where I thought I was leading with all of this confidence and security, I still lacked a lot of it.
Hmm. So in that, and where are you at now with that? And you don't have to give details, like, of course, like, please, share what you want and leave out the details that you don't want. But where do you feel like where you're at with that now? Because I know a lot of people will do, inner child healing and they feel like, and I don't know your answer to this, but they feel like they have to be completely healed to move on. So what's your take on like when you're talking about healing? Do you feel like I have to be completely healed to move on to go to the next thing? Is there levels, layers? Like, what is your take on it? What's been your experience?
Okay. I think as far as moving forward, it's every journey is going to be different. So for me, it was weekly sessions, sometimes during 1 month, sometimes over the course of a month, because it's going to radically change your environment because you're going to start looking at things differently. During that time, you need to be very patient with yourself because the current relationships you have with your parents, with your siblings, with your friends is all going to look different when you start feeling different inside. So people are not going to recognize you. You're not going to recognize you. And so it can be intimidating. So you might want to stop, pull back, and you might be like, I'm not ready to go forward. This is freaking me out, and just close the chapter. But that little voice that's knocking you on the shoulder is going to pull you back in, and you're going to realize that going through the steps of taking these, peeling back these layers within your childhood trauma, going into the teenage self, and now meeting the adult self is super pivotal for breakthroughs. And you'll be able to be getting that job that you really want. Maybe you're creating your own source of income now and you start your own business. Maybe you lose that weight that you've been carrying that you're just like, why won't it drop? And you don't shortcut it with any kind of these crazy rad diets they have out or injections because that's not healthy either. Like you just naturally detox your body. I'm all for that. And I kind of forget the question. I'm sorry. I hope I'm answering it still. Could you
Yeah,
refresh
no.
me?
So just kind of what is your take on healing, really? Do you feel like you have to be fully healed? Is it layers? Is it steps? But yeah, anything that you just want to say on that.
Thank you for the refresher.
Absolutely.
I'm battling a pretty big headache this morning, so I'm like, you might see me rub it out from time to time on here. I don't think you have to be fully healed to move forward. I've said it because I'm not fully healed right here today, right now. I still have many, many struggles I'm going to go through. I don't know all the answers. I still show up in my relationship and think I'm right, but it turns out I wasn't patient, didn't listen to my partner, and I may have been wrong. And I'm I'm forever healing. You're forever healing is a side note as well. Like there's never really a complete healing because it'll just take years because there's so much that has happened to you through experience that the deeper that you go, the more that you'll be able to understand as time moves on. But as you peel back these layers, you'll get better with dealing with trauma as it arises. Like you'll be able to be like, oh, this doesn't resonate. Don't want to do this anymore. And you'll be able to distinguish this is good, this is bad for my body.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm with you on like it's like you're always healed and you're never healed. I feel like people are like perfect and imperfect at the same time. So I definitely love that. And it's almost like a I don't think words do the frequency justice necessarily of like what healed really means. And I think also society has kind of put this label of like healing as a destination on all of us, which is kind of
Right.
unfortunate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like we're
I
having to move through that too.
Right, and there's no shame too if you don't want to do the work. There's so many ways to heal. Moving your body is the best one. If you are sitting, you are stagnant, your energy is not moving. Prior to this call, I had to go for a walk. It was pouring rain. Do you think I wanted to be out there? Part of me, absolutely. Inner child was super excited. Let's go jump in the puddles, get the dog all wet. But also part of me was like, I now have to clean up all the mud that's going to come in the house. And, I'm going to be soaked. I went out there at the time of my life. I was walking on sunshine. The sun literally came out as I started to walk.
That's
So I'm
amazing.
like, this is incredible. And it was a short one because it was a little bit chilly, but I still got my body moving. Had I not, I would have sat here and probably been like a little bit fidgety, maybe a little bit uncomfortable because I hadn't released everything from yesterday, right?
Mm,
That's one thing I've learned is like movement is key
hmm.
because energy and motion stays in motion, all that good jazz. It's like
Hmm.
it's incredible to move your body.
Yeah.
And
And also like there's like we as a society have put like these certain labels on this is a healing tool and this is not. Like this is fun. Like, okay, going over here and dancing and moving and walking and doing things for fun, that's just fun. Oh, but if you do yoga and breath work and like energy sessions,
Mhm.
that's healing as if they're separate and they're
Right.
different, but they're not.
And they're all in one because it takes you to walk to the yoga class.
Right?
It's like you don't just fly there. And I think like walking is one of my favorite activities. Over the past year, I've suffered some pretty serious health issues where I stayed in my bed a lot of days. And just yesterday was a really rough day for me. And today I'm glowing. I'm feeling so much better. It's a really up and down roller coaster till I find out what's really going on. But during that
Mm,
time, walks have helped me so much because it's the one place where I feel safe, I feel supported, and I'm right with Mother Nature. There's no better feeling. Right now, I don't have the confidence to go to the gym, show up for myself, pick up the weights. My body just feels weak. And so a walk feels really safe. So I encourage you, like during this time of healing, find what you feel is safe, but push yourself a little bit out of that discomfort, right? Because safety can feel staying at home, but you do have to get outside of the four walls for your mental health and for your
yeah.
physical. It's good to create the blood flow.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think everyone has a different relationship with movement. So I'm glad that you said, especially like what feels good for you. I think there's a difference between what feels good and what feels safe and comfortable. Because when you're listening
Yes.
to your body, like I just heard you, you can feel the frequency of when you're saying, like, right now, my body is asking for walks. Like it is not asking for the heavy weights. And you have to know when the difference between safety and discomfort is coming up.
Hmm.
So can you speak a little bit on that? Have you experienced those different versions? And maybe it's not even
Yes.
on movement, it could be on something else.
Right. So safety and discomfort. In, for example, knowing how my body has its ups and down days, I take every day with like a grain of salt. I'm very optimistic when I wake up. It's going to be a good day. Belly's going to act well. We're going to be able to function. And within 30 minutes to an hour, I know which card we're going to play. Is it we have to stay in bed or we can move a little bit? I always make time for the walk, but some days I try to go to the grocery store and I feel unsafe because my belly literally feels like it's going to rupture. And I sit in my car, I practice breathing techniques, I get through the store, but it was like this rush of anxiety. I'm like, perspiring from the forehead. I'm like, do people know? Like, do I look insane? And then I'm like, why am I worried about what other people think? I got through this experience, but what I challenge myself with is even if I'm not feeling good, I still show up. I push through the pain. So, yes, it's hard to go grocery shopping for me some days because I literally want to keel over in pain, but I know I have to keep moving forward in order to not let my mind rot at what's going on in my gut. So, side note, we're not sure what's going on. We're going for a procedure soon to see what's making my belly so funny. But I don't seem to be digesting my food quite well. And so that's causing irritation and a whole bunch of jazz. Lindsay knows the background. We talk about it often. But yeah, shit keeps hitting the fan, literally. And for the first time, this is a funny little story, embarrassing, but it's my shame slaying moment. For the first time in my adult life, 2 weeks ago, I pooped my pants. I thought it would be a little too. I'm like, okay, Billy's having a good day. No, very side note. It was awful. I was mortified. Okay. And I didn't know for like a good few minutes that this had happened. And I think to myself, this could have happened at a supermarket. What if that happens, right? That's what's causing this anxiety. And I realize it's totally okay. Even if someone sees it, accidents happen and you're going to be all right. So, embarrassing moments can happen. You don't know when they're going to be, but you can't live in this anxiety state. What if, what if, what if, what if? You have to like move forward. So, safety would feel like I'm going to stay home because my belly is being pretty rumbly. What was the other word we are using?
Discomfort.
Discomfort. And discomfort is telling me, I think you should go do this because this is a responsibility. You got to take care of it. If you push it off, you could have a worse day tomorrow. So that's kind of what helps me move forward, is always thinking, how good can it get? Not how bad can it get, but how good can it get? Like, this has
Hmm.
already happened. I've already gone in my pants. If I go again, it's already happened. I know what to do. We just go shower.
Hmm.
It's fine. So it's like I was an adult baby that day. It was really quite fun. But I moved through it and it's like now I laugh about it. But not many people knew that story, but now the whole world can. So cheers to sometimes your belly just, you gotta go.
Wow. First of all, thank you for just being brave and sharing something that I know is probably really scary to even just say out loud, and let alone on a recorded podcast. Like, can we just, like, first of all, give you so much props for just owning something that can be really terrifying to even admit. And I think that's, one of the first things to realize, especially when there's something going on in your body that you don't feel good about or don't feel comfortable with and don't want to share. Like, the worst thing you could do is shut down and not tell anyone and feel like you start shaming and blaming yourself for everything that's going on. And I know, I've had my own experiences with that, so I know how that feels. But at the same time, I'm watching you walk through this in one of the strongest ways possible. And think I told you this a couple weeks ago. I said this is, and you don't have to be doing this for the story, but I can just feel like what you're going through now is like the story you're going to tell in a few years, the story you're going to tell on stages, like the story you're going to tell of the way you're walking through yourself right now. So I think it's really cool just to witness the, like, what your body is giving you as an experience and how you're actually moving yourself through it, because a lot of other people can get really caught up in what's happening in their body. And it doesn't mean not to support yourself, because you totally are. And I love that. Like, you're still getting support from other people. You're still listening to yourself, even when it can be challenging. I know we talked a couple weeks ago and, you weren't feeling so great. You went on a walk, you got out of your head and you were like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I feel so much better. So you talked a little bit about that too, of how much you can be in your head and how much that can actually create your reality going down kind of that doom and gloom path.
Because one day the script changes, right? You didn't always think about going to the bathroom in your pants. That wasn't always my script. My script used to be, how much coffee can I drink? How energized can I get? Like that's what my thoughts radiated about. And then it just changes because my environment changes. And so also what we consume will bloom. My diet changed a year and a half ago now. And so I think we're at a point where my cells might be changing a little bit from that too. So food that I used to be able to eat no problem is now not resonating with me anymore. So I'm trying to figure out process of elimination. If I eat less of this, do I feel better? And so forth, because it's easy to blame something super acidic as what's causing the pain, but it could be as simple as a seed.
Hmm.
And the same goes for if you're in a job where you're not happy and you blame the fact that your coworker is coming in complaining about their lives bothers you. But doesn't it bother you more that you continue to show up at a place that you don't like and listen to these stories? Because you could rewrite the narrative by sharing a really positive story and then the conversation could switch. And
Hmm.
that's what I use for tactics because I work in a restaurant. So a lot of times people come in with a series of terrible events that they're going through, and I simply remind them to take a breath, to be here in this moment, and that without this job, could they provide a roof for their family? And most of them say no. But the curious part to me is when people say yes. And I'm like, so how are you fueling that dream so you don't have to come back to this place that you so call hate? And that's the big mystery that we all try to unfold. But we get so comfortable in our patterns that we think, nope, this is just my life. permanently have this illness and I'm never going to heal from it. No, stop that nonsense. Go for a walk, rewrite your script because you got the power. Don't you realize that before and after you exercise, you feel entirely different? Your thoughts are different. Maybe you were angry, now you're super excited. Maybe not that drastic of it of
It could
thoughts,
be.
but it could be. You could be like, I'm super happy. I'm not angry anymore, but the same kind of passion behind it.
Mhm.
It's always changing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And oh man, I lost my train of thought. So I don't think we're supposed to go there.
I
You
keep
know,
losing mine. I don't know what's going on. My head's like womp womp womp.
yeah, I feel like this is like the also the message because I will for sure out myself too. I've been like super in my head. I've been getting better about getting in my body. And so I feel like this entire episode is just kind of like teaching us to like get out of our head and like into the body because
Hmm.
I've been in that too. And you guys know I don't edit these episodes specifically because I like to keep them real. So like stuff like this is just going to be in here. Like I'm not going to try and sugarcoat the fact that like I forgot a thought. Like it's just not supposed to be there anymore. But what I wanted to like really bring to this podcast, especially with you being on here today, and I will also like to say and just give a massive shout out and be just like, I just want to share my gratitude immensely for you being one of like the most religious listeners I think I have, at least that anyone tells me about it. If you're a listener out there that, or, you listen to every episode like Genevieve does, let me know. I don't know you exist, but I know people out there listen to it. I just hear from you specifically and I talk to you. And so, first off, I just want to say thank you so much for being such an avid listener and really, being such a support of this podcast, of this show. And with that, I named it the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast on purpose because I want to bring stories and experiences and teachings and lessons to this podcast that is really helping people glow from the inside out. So yes, we're talking about healing, but I like to come at it from a fun aspect and from, life experiences and things like that, which is exactly, what we're here talking about today. And you'll hear us talk about very real, raw things that are going on. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm so glad you're not sugarcoating it either, because I think people need that real conversation and we need to stop, trying to make it sound good for people to be okay with. And I think this is one of the things, one of the narratives that I really want to break. Now, with this, one of the reasons I wanted to invite you on, just besides the fact that you are just a beaming glow of light today and always, but as I have known you over the past year, I have watched you grow and flourish in yourself, in your business, online, on social media, which is just like a whole animal in itself. And I wanted you to really talk about what have you been going through in the past year, because I've seen you go online, start sharing your stories, start sharing reels, start showing up for yourself and speaking. And I can tell, I don't know if you can tell, how much your voice has changed, how much your demeanor has changed, how much more confident you show up for yourself and online. But I want you to take us through like what has it actually felt like for you in the past year. So coming off of breathwork training, coming off of, leading your first yoga classes to where you're at now, what have you actually been doing or feeling behind the scenes to get you to this place?
So, sorry, I'm just rubbing out a good headache again. But I am so excited to share that I went to breathwork, and that was the beginning of this huge detox for me. So, I came home, and it was probably a few months later, but I started to notice this crazy rash that developed on my body. Inevitably, I wanted to hide it from the world. So, I wore turtlenecks everywhere, dead of summer, didn't care. Was like, I'm not showing this to anyone. I was scared it was contagious, but I didn't really want to seek medical help. Shocker. And I was like, I can heal this on my own. I'm just going to hydrate. I'm going to eat clean like I do already and exercise. And I'm just going to sweat this out. Well, that didn't exactly work out the way I thought it would. And the rash spread. So, what started so cute and cuddly became this crazy story I would then share later, because it was like this roadmap of everything I couldn't imagine coming to life. Like, imagine wanting to literally jump out of your own skin. It was as if I was having an identity change. Like, you are no longer this version of you. You are emerging into this new being. You are becoming this beam of light that you wish for and dream for. And we're going to create that. We're going to shed these layers. So it was many, many months. I actually still have a little bit of scarring, and also the rash appears to be returning. But I'm not focusing my energy and attention towards it. During that time, though, I was very attached to my rash. I became my rash. That was my identity. I was the rash. And it just consumed me, consumed me. Then I started sharing about it. Slowly but surely, it started to melt away. And I didn't take any medicine for it. In fact, when I did seek medical attention and got these creams prescribed, I started in a very small trial era and it went crazy. So I'm like, we're not going to use this. Ironically, 3 creams later, we found out it was none of those things, and we found out it was a version of herpes. Now, instantly, I
Mm.
think to myself, this is so cool because my mentor had herpes. That was like fascinating. I'm like, and she told her story and she's brave, and I'm like, and I'm gonna tell mine. Now, second, I'm like, how the hell did I contract this? I have a fiance, and where has he been? Right? So I know I haven't been anywhere, but this wasn't something I could contract from anyone. This was a virus in my body, the version that I had, that had come out as like a cold that was untreated. But because I
Mhm.
was doing all this root work with my inner child, all this disturbance in my body, clearing out that energy, it just wanted to pour right out of my skin. So I fought through it. It's now clearing up, like I said, for the most part, which is super exciting. But for a while, I really worried that that was going to be me. I was going to be this like reptile with this scaly skin and this ugly design. And then I realized it's okay. You're still beautiful from the inside out. And it doesn't really matter what you look like on the outside. So that was the first health challenge. And so I started sharing about that. And the more and more I became open about it, the more I was like, wait, I have this great gift of knowledge that I can share with the world, that people can be vulnerable, they can be themselves, they can open up. And a lot of that was inspired from watching our mentor, Shoshana. It was also from watching Lindsay and just listening to her voice and actually like going through her course and learning about healing the root, and all of these things can come up. And I had a rash. Your symptoms could look entirely different as you heal. You could experience hair loss. You could all wild things can happen to your body while you're going through this. But pardon me, losing the headphones here. The beauty of it is now I get this awesome story to tell. So now we've worked on the skin, which is the largest organ, and now we get to go into the gut because that's the next thing that wants to get all gooey and bubble up. And so now I'm just going through a different detox, but it's just fascinating because breathwork really started that for me. And then through that journey, I was able to lead yoga sessions and show up for my clients when it was really hard to even show up for myself. But I made that commitment. They made the commitment to sign up for the class and come. So I was like, I'm going to lead them. And guess what? There were days where I actually ended up taking my sweatshirt off because class got so hot and my rash was just all over. Guess what? Nobody said anything. Nobody came over and was like horrified. No. In fact, they wanted to hug me. And I was like, oh, hugs are cute. Not today. Not with this thing on me. And they're like, what? And I was like, oh, if we turn around, we'll see this entire roadmap of my entire experience behind me. I don't think you want this. And so people would be like, what? Come over here. And they always wanted the hugs. And that was like intimidating to me because I'm like, what? Why do you want to touch me? I'm diseased. But the truth is, they didn't care, right? Because they trusted that obviously if it was something really spreadable, I wouldn't be in public places. But also
Right.
like it doesn't matter. They didn't care. They like who I am under the surface. So that's kind of how we got here today, was just like healing with the root, finding breath work, cleansing out the soul, and now I'm able to lead people to cleanse out their soul. And I'm like really passionate about getting under the surface and really just rumpling up your feathers and letting it all out.
I love that. I didn't realize, like, I know we've talked a little bit about some of the health challenges that you've been experiencing, but I don't think I realized like that's been such a driving factor, especially in the last year. And even before that, to get you to where you are now, like, as you're speaking about it, it sounds like your body really started to talk and really was letting go of things. I think that's
Mhm.
so interesting. And I love that you made the connection about, the rash really showing up and being connected to your root and how you were actually moving through a lot of that inner child work. And the interesting thing that I really want to point out, because I just talked to somebody else who has like a very similar pattern that I recognized going on, is that you're saying like it was very root focused and now all of a sudden it's moving up to the gut, which is very solar plexus focus. And it's very like all about your confidence and your inner power. And just really, it's at that point where you're starting to shine outwards so people can see you. What I find interesting, and I only say this because you're now the second person that has come to me or like I've talked to about this.
Sure.
And this other person as well, it was like very root and solar plexus focused. And I'm like, why did the sacral get kind of like seemingly skipped? Like, what's going on? But there's a similarity between you and this other person that I really want to point out. And that is that both of you are have your own businesses and are creating content and are the real root of it is creating. You're both creating, you're both sharing your work, you're both out there. Like there's enough creative energy that it's almost like maybe the sacral isn't like fully formed. It's not fully online. It's not fully activated. Like there's obviously still going to be there more for you to activate. But it's interesting. It's like, okay, the root needed attention first. Okay, you got that. You really worked on that. And now it's like because you are creating, because you have your own podcast as well, which by the way, if you guys haven't listened to it, please go listen to Genevieve's podcast as well. And it's like there's so much creation that's already happening from you that it's like, okay, we're going up to the solar plexus for you to really start to shine, to have your inner confidence, and for you to have that really work on that inner power. So I want to hear, like, have you felt that energy, like that I kind of reflected back to you?
Yes, I'm getting a little bit of tinglies in the hands and arms from what you were just sharing because it brings me back to when I was a kid about having this confidence. When I was younger, I used to sing, absolutely loved it. Sorry, that's probably really loud. And I, sorry, so I went sexy, not sorry. Okay, we're just gonna shimmy it out. So when I was younger, I was in middle school and there was a talent show, and I grabbed the microphone, I signed up, and I was ready to sing. And I started going for it, and you've seen me on stage. I love stage while we
She's
were at
really
training.
good. Like
I just
she's,
have fun. I
yeah, it's
always wanted to
amazing.
be a little actress, but I get really into it. And I'm sure you, if you watch my podcast and listen to my podcast and like watch my reels, I get really movie groovy. You can like feel it not only in my words, but in my actions. I really
Hmm.
embody it. So I'm on stage. I'm like maybe, I don't know, like in middle school, you're probably like 11 or 12. And I got the microphone and I'm singing Adele, Rolling in the Deep. And I am just singing my heart out. I'm like one line in. The crowd goes wild. Parents, students are like clapping and they're joining in. And I immediately shut the show off and I'm like, I stop singing. Everyone looks at me like, what's going on? I'm like, stop clapping. And I didn't realize that everyone was cheering me on. I was insulted. I'm like, you can't hear me sing. No, the truth is, it was
Stop.
like, this is actually recorded. My parents have this somewhere on like a little camcorder. And I remember being like, no, this is what I did. I went, and everyone was like, what is wrong with her? You know, it's not part of the song. And so I went back to singing my heart's content out, but you could tell the crowd was like over it at this point. They wanted me off stage. They're kind of booing me. And that was my one moment to shine. So I was like, I don't think I can ever get on a stage again. Fun fact, I learned later in life that they were just like super into my voice. And that was like a really big encouragement to like, I had talent. So at 16, I'm like, screw it. I'm going to face this fear. I signed up for the X Factor. And I remember going to the audition. It was at Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence. For Lindsay and anyone else in the world, probably you don't know what that is, but it's in Massachusetts. It's like the next town, Rhode Island, little city. And
Gotcha.
so I remember driving there and I was like, I think I was a passenger. I don't think I drove yet, but I was like really super excited. I had this cotton candy outfit, ripped pink jeans, a white cheetah see-through shirt with a blue cami. Like I was gonna rock the
Woo!
stage. And I like my aunt took me shopping for this. It was awesome. Nonetheless, I get in there and I'm thinking like this is gonna be the same repeat of like middle school, where there's gonna be thousands of people and I'm gonna be singing too. No. This was multiple booths set up, like almost like a hockey arena where they took the ice out. And it was just a small curtain, and there was two people sitting in chairs, and you would audition. And I'm like, okay, this is intimidating because you can hear everybody else singing, but I had to cancel out the noise. I'm like, this is
Oh,
great practice.
interesting.
Yeah. So you hear some people really going great, and some people like maybe they should drink a little more tea before it. I didn't know where I fell in this category, right? But I'm like, I'm confident. I'm gonna rock this stage. I go all in. I sing Rolling in the Deep because that's my number one signature song. I got nothing else prepared. It's what got me through my first show. I sing it. The judges go wild. They give me this ticket like Willy Wonka. It was a golden ticket. And there's a picture of me somewhere. I got to find it. And I remember just being like, and they're like, come back tomorrow because you made it to round two. Mind you, I have not met any judges. Like, this is a lot of preliminary before you even get to the
Mm.
show.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I got 24 hours to prepare a song. I'm gonna go with the same song. Somehow my parents convinced me, don't sing the same song, switch it up, you might get the same judges. And this is where I say, listen to your intuition. Because intuition told me don't do that. But all these other voices getting in my head like they do when you get older and older, you start listening to other people's opinions. And so I blow it. I sing Sarah Bareilles' love song, and it sounds like a cat getting strangled. Like it just, not really, but in my head, it just went so poorly. And they tell me, oh, you're how old? Well, if you come back in 2 years, you can audition again. I think your voice will really develop. So, like, my career's over. I toss the ticket out the window and I go home devastated. Now, 2 years later, I'm like, okay, this is my time to shine. My tonsils decide they're going to get infected and be so swollen that I can't breathe. So I have to go in for emergency surgery. They snip it out. Turns out there was like a piece of food in there. Let's call it a popcorn kernel, something stupid. And now I'm like, my voice has changed. There's no way I can go on stage. So, fun fact, I have not sung since then until I met my fiance and we were out having the first date of a lifetime. And I decided it's time for me to grab the mic and sing karaoke at this grungy bar. And the crowd goes wild. You can see the trend. Everyone is like going crazy. I'm like singing over here. I'm having the time of my life. And so that's kind of what Lindsay saw a little bit of at training together. But like, I love the stage. I can't wait to get on it. I can't wait to just lead with intention. And the funny part is, I don't think it's going to be singing. I think it's going to be more heartfelt messages that I'm going to deliver, but getting on stage as a child and as I grew older was like super pivotal. I always wanted to be like an actress. I found it fascinating to like impersonate someone, but now I'm like I just want to be me up there. So
Mm.
that's kind of I think why we're seeing more and more light shine through me because my inner child is like excited. She's like I get to reclaim myself.
I love that. I love that story. That is one of the best. I could even just like feel your energy. Anyone who's listening or even watching they can just feel like how your energy shifted when you started talking about that and just being on stage and being out there singing. I think that's an incredible message about, yeah, listening to yourself instead of listening to others, which I know we all do it. So it's not just you,
Yes.
but it's a good lesson and some
Hmm.
validation as why, which by the way, were they different judges? I wanted to ask you.
Oh, yeah, they did end up being different people.
Mm.
And it was just funny because even in that moment, right, I had the option to use the same song, but I had already written the script in my head
Mm.
subconsciously that I wasn't going to do it. I almost like forgot the words. I remember stumbling, I started again, and it was just like, I knew it walking in that building. I'm like, today's not my day. Today's not my day. But I was like, it can be. But when you already believe something, it is so hard to change it in that moment. But I will say, as you go deeper into healing work, you can find a faster turnaround. Before that, it was
Yeah.
really, really hard. I mean, I hadn't even touched healing work yet. I was still young and in denial that I needed any kind of help. I'm like, I've got this. Don't need anyone's help,
You're
But
at
truth
that
is,
stage where
I
you,
did.
yeah, you're like, your soul's like, no, 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 you need to go like learn some lessons, screw up. So then you can like, go learn about why this happens
Mm.
later. That was that era.
Oh, the denial of a child. It is like the most beautiful thing. I
Right,
love
isn't
it.
it? No, I
Hmm.
love that. And I didn't know that about you, that one, you were, scared to sing. I didn't know anything about this because and honestly, as someone who watched you at teacher training, I would have never known. And, you have, which is so interesting, you have this very like, I don't know what's the right word. It's like you have like a very mature essence about you. I think you almost used to have more of that, not in a bad way. I don't say it in a bad way. Again, this is just like me like watching you from like a Zoom screen and stuff. And you have this like very mature essence about you. But I've watched like, and I didn't know you were doing so much inner child work. Like there has been so much more fun and play that has come like back into your presence, back into your essence. And I actually like I remember from the Zoom screen before we even got to training, like I saw just like your little photo and I was like, I just assumed like you were much, much older. And then I got in person with you and I was like, is that the same girl? Like,
I
I was
aged
like, I'm very
backwards.
confused because you were just very like poised, very mature, like very like you just seemed like you had it all together. I was like, I don't know who this girl Genevieve is, but she clearly seems like she's got her life together. Like, I don't know. Like I was like, she's the yoga teacher. Like, I don't know. She just like, and I don't say that in a bad way. And I'm not saying like, oh no, you definitely don't have your life together. But it's just like, I feel so much more fun and play has come
Hmm.
into your energy now, where before I think I saw like maturity because, I didn't know you. And that's like kind of the facade that was being put on, but it was maybe more of like protective energy. And now that's like
Oh,
open.
yeah, you said that nail on the head. I remember preparing for that Zoom meeting. I was just like,
You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
I was like 2 feet to the right of me in this desk that is now covered in goodness. But I remember sitting there, like, I had made a tea. I was like, I had my notebook ready and I was like sitting up proper. I made my fiance leave the house. I was like, there can be no background noise, none. Mind you, we weren't even going to get the opportunity to talk anyways, but I was like, super, nope, it's going to be strict. Now, fun
Yeah, we
fact.
didn't talk on this call. Like, just for anyone listening, we sat there and listened.
I think I actually maybe got the mic to just be like, I'm going to be leading yoga at the end.
You did.
But
Yeah.
other than that, I didn't have this great stage that I thought we were all gonna get to talk, like, be like, hey, I'm so and so from here, and I can't wait to meet you. But I definitely had that protective energy where now I'm just like open and excited and always ready to make new connections and just expansion because what I've learned through this time is communication builds character and it builds your tribe. And so
Hmm.
showing up relentless over and over and over again. I remember how obsessed I was with it's so funny to say, but like meeting Lindsay and then being like, what is her life like? I want to know more. And then just following her over the past year. And my fiance was like, you're being kind of like creepy with how much you're obsessing over her. Like she's our dinner talk every night. Can we talk about something else? I'm like, no, she's like really got it going on. And I'm like, I just like I'm fascinated. I was like, I just want to pay her my life savings to figure out how I get there. And he would just be like baffled. Like he's like, you're not gonna pay this woman to be her. You're gonna be you, but you can learn from her. And I was like, okay, okay. And I was like, I dream that I will be on the podcast and get to share this beautiful time with her. And now we're here, and I'm like, manifestation does work. And see, and it was just like so fun. And fun fact too is like just as I was like preparing for that meeting a year ago before we knew each other, even today, we were home. We had the greatest, like, free flowing, fun morning. Took a walk down the street. I carried my coffee in a mug, which I don't do enough of, but I love. I encourage you to try it. It's warmer where you are, so it won't get as cold. But for me, it was like ice cold like that. And I was like, well, this was fun. But it was like so joyful and like kid like, because kids love to take their like sippy cups everywhere. And I'm like, I'm
Mm.
taking my mug. I'm not finishing this yet. And so we had gotten back from it, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna shower and get ready, and then I need you to get out of the house. And he was like, why? I'm like, I have a very important meeting you can't be home for. Fun, like, side note, we live in a studio, so there's no privacy. So if
Mm.
he was home, you would hear a lot of background. He would be very distracting. And he's like, you mean to tell me you're gonna go on with your mentor and I can't be here for that moment? I said, absolutely, now leave. And so we're talking like 7 minutes clock time until we're supposed to air, and I am like fuming. I'm like, my energy is like not in a good place. I need you to go. I'm stressed out. He's like, do you want me to make you a smoothie? So you're like, relax. You want a tea? I'm like, I just need you to go. Please go. And so then I had to practice some grounding work before we go on. But it's just like funny because even a year later, I still like kick his buns out when I have a big meeting. I get so nervous. And then I'm like, he could have been here. It would have been fine too. But
I mean, that's fair. I totally understand, like, especially in the environment you're in. And
right.
like, you want to obviously show up as your best self. I mean, shoot, and when I'm like sending voice messages, like I don't like to be around people because it feels like a very intimate conversation, even though like especially this one is being recorded and people are gonna
Sure.
listen. But it feels like when you're in it, that it's a very like intimate conversation. And like I don't necessarily want to be like spewing it to everyone publicly and then they're listening and it just like while I don't think that you should be worried about what other people are thinking, like sometimes there is that aspect of like at least I have that feeling too of like there's other influences outside and I don't feel like I can just say what I want to say, and maybe that's probably something that I also need to work through as well and just not care about. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there's like just a next level of that, but there's also an element of like you want to show up and be your best self and be I was going to say professional, but this is also not a professional setting. It's just like, I don't know, your most authentic self, I suppose.
Yes.
And having that confidence feeling, like I think whatever environment gets you in that space, I think is your right to be able to say, like, this is what I need from you. I mean, I love that he's so supportive and he's like, all right, bye.
Completely. I've struggled with him, I really have. But it was not easy to get where we are today. He was very patient because I had to do all of that healing work to be able to show up and be like, hey, and voice how I was feeling. And know, and he was extremely supportive through that journey. And so sometimes we can be in a relationship and be so oblivious that our partner is supporting us, it almost looks like it's not. And but when I look back, I'm like, wow, he was like really patient during this time when I was really frustrated and couldn't voice how I was truly feeling. I used to have a tendency to shut down in arguments, or he would tell me something, and rather than take it as constructive criticism, I would be like, I don't want to talk to you. And I
Mm,
realized this was with every relationship I had, not just with my partner. So for anyone listening, it can be hard no matter what environment you're in, right? If you're in an office setting, you work at a restaurant, you work at a industrial place, wherever you work, right? People come in with their stories from the weekend or even the night before, and they just want to, spew everything out on you. And then you absorb that without even realizing. And then you go home and you spew it on your home. And so now your home has this disturbance and you can't quite figure out why there's so much turmoil. Or like, I did all the things I was supposed to do. I made dinner. I did this. Why is my partner not appreciating me? Because when you go out in the universe, you're not protecting yourself. You're not putting yourself first and really like, you know what, Jerry, I'm just not into talking about this today. And guess what? Jerry
mhm,
might be pissed, but it's okay, because
mhm,
you have to protect you. And I think so often there is not that connection or that free flowing of like uh, growth happening. It's more saturation. And so,
mm,
like, we've gotten on the phones many times and just had great, powerful conversations. And it's like those are the kind of friendships and connections I want to continue to foster. So when I'm out in the universe now, I'm like, this doesn't resonate with me. And I'll notice that sense of safety come up. And I'm like, nope, not gonna, I'm just gonna walk away and redirect. And guess what? We all have that power, but we forget we
mhm.
have it. And so just like tuning back into the sense of like what serves me.
Yeah, no, I
It's
love that. And
huge.
that's a lot of boundaries. And it
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot of, it takes a lot of self-love, self-empowerment and confidence to, I think, sometimes set up those boundaries, especially depending on what type of relationship you have with the person you're putting boundaries up with. But
Completely.
I want to hear about when you're saying like, you've mentioned this a couple times of having just a supportive community, supportive people around you, cultivating deeper relationships with people that you actually, you know, resonate with, want to be around more often versus kind of just the default community maybe you found yourself in. And I bring this up because I know that this is a very common topic that people are really struggling with right now, only because I think there's just so much more of an awakening happening in on Earth, on planet Earth. And so what is your take? Like, what has been your experience and what have you done to maybe recreate or just create, high vibe communities, friendships, people you're around? Like, what has been your experience? What have you done?
So I think it's all about the power of intention. How I start my day really started to transform how I approach all my interactions. So rather than, oh my gosh, I got to check my Instagram feed, see who's on my business, see who messaged me overnight, very big no no. I go into reading a book and I give myself that designated time to just really set intention, dive into myself, and then moments for reflection. And then I start calling in the conversations I really want. So I go for my walk, which I know I've said 1,000 times now, but I really just find so much power in it. Maybe you go to the gym, maybe you go to a spin class, wherever you're at. And that is just so organic. I realized I even started talking to my dog better. I'm like, like small
I
connections
love that.
because I'm like, it's okay, buddy. Like, I'm so much more patient with him.
Mm.
And now he listens. On a walk, he is just the most like handsome little man strutting his stuff. He's not chasing these squirrels all crazy. Like for a while I was having shoulder problems because he just kept yanking me. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I'm the owner. I can control him. But I still want him to have his free time and playfulness, right? So I had to find that balance. But my dog was the first person I called in. Well, first being. And then
Love
when
that.
I went to work, right? All you dog lovers out there. When I went to work, it was kind of just like I noticed certain people would share stories, and I'm like, ooh, I would almost get like nauseous and faint. And I'm like, I'm just gonna excuse myself for a moment because I realized what they were feeding me was a bunch of gossip and negativity. And I was like, this is not who I want to be around. In fact, most people I work with don't even know I have a business because my business is very sacred. So it's something I want to share with people that I feel would find value in it. Do I think my coworkers could find value? Yes, but they're not open to the idea of it. So I'm not going to waste my energy on. sharing that part with them. Instead, I'm going to channel the people I really want to connect with. So now it's like, midday, maybe evening hours, not close to bed, a little bit before. And now I tune into my community and I share a powerful message on Instagram or I share a powerful podcast. And I'm now calling in the people that follow me and I'm noticing who's commenting, who's showing up. And now I'm reaching out to them and I'm building the connection. And I have had such great results with showing up for me that now people see that. So now they want to show up. Like valuing your time, I think is a huge part of this and your energy. So you put yourself at work, and I bring this up often because I'm in the turmoil of like leaving my 9 to 5 and just fully going business strong. And I know it's pulling me. I know it. And I'm excited for it too. But when I go to work, I have to remind myself, put this energy protection on that I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose. So I started going in with the intention of if I can meet one client today, if I can inspire one person here that sits at this restaurant and I make them a cocktail or I make them a soda water, whatever it is, that I build a connection with them, that they feel valued. Because that's another thing as society we lack is the sense of value. We don't feel appreciated. So we come from this distress point and we complain about everybody else's behavior, but we don't evaluate our own. A lot of people don't even share any positives. If you notice that, they come out and they're very negative. They're like, it's a so-so day. It's like, no, you're above ground. This is something to celebrate. There's a reason you're still here because you have a purpose that you haven't even discovered yet. And so I love just learning people. And by doing that and showing them that I care, people inevitably return back to me and they're like, knocking at my door, like, hey, I'm going through this really tough time. And I think you would be an amazing person. That was so bizarre. Something just fell in my home. Anyways, I think you'd be an amazing person um, to help me go through the struggle that I'm going through. And it's like, wow, this is something I always dreamed of. So supporting someone through a time which I wish I had when I was going through that. And they
Mm,
can be any age. And what I find the most fascinating is like I'm calling in without even realizing, I'm calling in mothers that are really in distress, which,
mm,
funny enough, when I was a kid, I really tried everything I could to support my mom and help her. She was a single mother. And that's why I got the HVAC job so I could, help provide a roof over our head because I really wanted to see my mom thrive rather than, suffer. And so now I'm receiving these messages from different mothers like, hey, I'm going through this really challenging time. Is there any way you can meet with me? And I'm like, okay, they're showing up for them. Yes. So I set the coffee date and I'm excited to meet with them. And then they don't show up. And I'm like, what did
mm,
I do wrong here? But I have to realize that was once me. I used to not show up for appointments, right? I used to be afraid, intimidated. So kind of like
mm,
taking a step back and realizing like meet them where they feel safe and
mhm,
then they'll gain the trust more because you don't know what's happening on the inside. It's easy to judge and say, well, they just blew me off, screw them, I'm never going to talk to them again. But that's
mhm,
not love, and I'm all about love. So I'm patient, but I do respect my own time. So if you do that to me now, it's going to be on my time when we meet again,
mhm.
and I'm going to make sure that you're fully committed before I show up because you've disrespected me. But you can gain my trust back. But I think that that's so often we don't regain that on ourselves, so we just let everybody take advantage of us. And that's pivotal to change that mindset.
Yeah, and you said a lot about like you giving to other people. Like I heard you say that in multiple times. Like you're not only giving to yourself, you're showing up, you're being yourself, you're showing people who you are, but you are also the one that is cultivating a lot of these relationships. You're giving to other people, and then you're giving other people the opportunity to respond, to receive, and to come into your space as well. I think a lot of people just think that, and I will out myself that I used to be one of them, that I thought I could just like sit in my office in my house and just like wait for everyone to show up at my doorstep and do nothing, and that's like
Hmm.
hilarious to say out loud. But it's true. Like I was just like, I have these amazing things. Everyone should just like know about them. And it's like, no, like, you even mentioned like you got to put in the work and you got to show up for yourself, but not only showing up for yourself, you're showing up for other people. You're giving them the opportunity to come into your space, to show up basically for themselves, but really just you're giving them a reason to respond to you. You're giving them something to respond to. You're not just expecting them to do all the work. And I think that that's huge as well. I know a lot of people maybe don't necessarily do that only because I was one of them. So I just think that that's an incredible way to really start creating your reality, your friendships, your relationships that you want. Like you're saying, you're inspired by people, so you reach out to them and start that conversation instead of just sitting back and waiting like, "Oh, I really like them. Do they even know I exist?" Probably not, you know? And I think that's really incredible.
And it can take a while to be noticed, right? I mean, shit, I harassed Lindsay for like an entire year and now I'm finally on here. But I mean, granted, a year ago we didn't have the podcast started yet, but
No.
it's just funny that I was like, I am relentless. I am gonna show up. And so much so that she's become such a great close friend of mine that like I'm constantly telling my community about her and I'm like, you have to reach out to this woman. She is liquid gold. Like she is just gonna get you to another dimension. And they see it and they recognize it. And I cannot meet a client without sharing about who Lindsay is. I'm just like fascinated with her and her work. And I also feel like I wouldn't be who I am without her.
Oh,
And so I know I really, really mean that. You have been such a pivotal force in like helping me create into the woman version of myself, like this beautiful, vibrant being who is ready to take on this world. And I could not have gotten there, but it was her like gentle support and like just amazing, amazing human being that she is. But I think sometimes in business especially, right? If we get a client and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how did you get here?" and you tell your story, but you leave out who your mentors were because you're afraid that they're going to jump over you and go to them. That is a big, 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 massive, huge, enormous. I lost it. I went so crazy about the words. But that's just like a sign that you are just not in alignment. If you're jealous about
mm,
somebody leaving you to go to your mentor, that's disturbing to me because you wouldn't be
yeah.
you without your mentor. So, in
Hmm.
fact, I actually love it if I'm like, "Hey, I know this," and I send them, and then they start working with Lindsay. That's like such like a compliment to me that they listened to me, they trusted me, and now they're gonna get the healing work. Because I may not have had the answers for them, but I may have been that safe space to get them to someone that can.
Oh my gosh, I had so many chills when you said that. I just love how you said that, how you stated it. First off, just yeah, thank you so much for what you said and for how you one, I mean, I just am so grateful for impacting your life at all. I by the way, I did not pay her to say this. Like just want to say like this is like I'm just very grateful that we've really developed this relationship and that I could really support you in any capacity that you're really looking for. But I love what you said about one, people not sharing their mentors. I've seen that. And it does bother me because one, it does feel like there's a little bit of hiding.
Right.
Two, it's like if you're really loving your mentor, like why not share them? But I also think that there's something about there's that energy of competition that people are so afraid of not sharing. They don't want someone to go to someone else. And the reality is, I mean, honestly, this is actually why I started inviting people on my podcast. I think it was one, I needed to just cultivate this relationship with myself. Like I had to just show up for myself and just be here solo. And then there was a time where it was like, hey, you need to start branching out and bringing other people on. And that was at the time where like I was working through like kind of getting rid of that competitive energy in my body with working with other people and bringing in collaboration. But if you don't even recognize that that's something that's maybe in your energy, in your body, in your mind, then you're going to be pushing away so many experiences and people resonate with your specific energy, with your specific frequency. I feel like this is so interesting that you're bringing this up because this message has been just in my life a lot this week. It's been reflected to me. I've been saying it. Now you're saying it. And you have specific energies, codes, messages for the people that are meant for you at this time. And then as you evolve, you're going to start attracting newer people because now your energy has changed, your frequency has changed. Now they're going to be attracted to you. And so this whole thought and feeling, and I say this very humbly of saying, like, I have had these thoughts of, I am afraid to bring on someone else into my space because what if they want to work with them instead? Like, I still sometimes will have these thoughts of, like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? So, I'm not saying that like, oh man, I'm healed, I'm good, like I got it all going on. But for when you said it, the way you said it, especially with the mentors, I have my own mentors. I know who their mentors are, and I have zero desire to work with those other people. And it's just a frequency match. Like that's
Right.
it, you
And
know?
And I think if we change this jealous society that we live in and we became more transparent and more supportive, which is why I have my business called Spread Your Roots, which is all about nourishing each other from the root, which is if a
Love
tree gets
that.
sick out in nature, it's going to extend its roots to help its neighbor. So the healthy tree, rather, will extend its roots to the sick tree, and then that tree will blossom, right? And so they work
Mm.
together, and now there's this gorgeous forest that grows, and you can go enjoy it as a human being or an animal. And they work together to create that, right? So if we come back to the human experience, why would I not want to work with Lindsay and create something beautiful and all of these other amazing souls out there? Because the power of connection is just, it's insane. Everyone brings a different gift. So there could be something
Mm.
I'm deficient in, but Lindsay is excelling in, and vice versa. And so it's like, let's call it in. Let's bring in this energy. And so I hope anyone that was listening to this episode today, like, feels the inspiration to reach out to one of us, at least both of us. Like, I'd love to talk again with someone else on here and really just go deeper of like, what's going on in your life? Where do you feel, any tension? Let's get talking about it. The hardest step is admitting that we even have anything in our body in balance, right? No one wants to admit that they're not perfect. But newsflash, I am far from it. I might be
Yeah.
glowing, but I'm still got some work on the inside.
Hey, we can be glowing and still have work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for that as well. Well, I have just absolutely loved this podcast. I've loved this conversation. So, Genevieve, thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you to all the listeners who have taken your time to really be here with us and to just listen to all of the messages, the codes, the stories that Genevieve has really brought to this episode today. So, before we go, Genevieve, where can people find you if they want to connect with you? Is there anything that you are inviting people into right now? Where can they find you and connect with you further?
So you can reach me at 508. No, I'm just kidding. Um, you can reach me on my Instagram. Is probably the number one platform right now. And so that is Flow with Genevieve. There's underscores in between each word. And then through there, you'll get a link to my site.vagaro/spreadyourroots.com, which is my website. I don't
Yeah,
own the
we'll put
rights,
it
so
in the
it's a
show
little
notes below.
it's a little bit of a mouthful there. But on my website, you will see all my offerings. So I offer in-person yoga sessions, private sessions, group sessions. And so one of my favorites is like summer's coming. So we can do like a nice little mimosas and some yoga. So nice little like ladies morning or day out or vice versa, whoever wants to celebrate. And I even make my own fresh pressed juices. So that's a nice little bonus for the
Ooh.
bubblies. So there's that. There's breathwork. I mean, there's a list of things on the website that you can find, or you can direct message me right on Instagram. And the last but least not place you can find me is through my podcast, which is Rise and Reclaim. That's on Spotify, struggling with Apple, but I think it's there. And then if you want the visual, it's actually on Spotify too. You can get it on YouTube at Spread Your Roots. So I'm on so many platforms. I know that was a mouthful. The show notes will explain all of them. But
Yes.
I look forward to just, coaching you through these really tough times and being that pillar of strength for you that I wish I had, because it's really nice when someone can hold your hand and walk through the fire. But I'm going to hold your hand imaginatively because I promise you, you have the strength. I'm just going to help get you there.
Oh, I love that. Mic drop.
That's
Thank
probably
you.
really
Thank
loud.
you so much, Genevieve, for being here. Make sure that you reach out to her. We'll put all of the links that she mentioned in the show notes below so that you can find her, reach out to her, send her a DM, connect with her further if you resonate and just want to say hi. Thank you so much, Genevieve, for being here with us today. I am just incredibly, incredibly grateful. I love this conversation. I hope all the listeners did as well. And for anyone who is listening, if as you are listening to this episode and someone really popped into your head of, hey, they really need to hear this, or I really want them to hear what's being talked about here today, please send them this episode on your favorite platform. We just love when you share with more people to get this episode and this show out there to more. This is just really to help the all of the collective and humanity rise in consciousness and just really allow them to hear different stories and different people. This is just the power of social sharing. And so that would be mean so much to us if you did share. And if you are not already following the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast on Spotify, make sure you do so you see all of the new episodes that get dropped. And also make sure to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts so that we can also get to reach more people. And we are also on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and like this video so that more and more people can see Genevieve and all of her stories and glory here today. So, Genevieve, thank you so much for being here with us today. I am incredibly grateful that you were able to join us and just share your story, your messages, and just really your energy here today. I really, really enjoyed this, and I know that everyone listening is going to enjoy it too. So, thank you so much.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. What an honor. I mean, dreams really do come true, folks, okay? Because I manifested this shit and we are here. So I am excited to meet each and every one of you. And yeah, let us know how this resonated with you because it only inspires us more to dive deeper and learn each other's stories. And I will have Lindsay as a guest on mine shortly as well. Wow, why am I struggling so much? If you'll accept the invitation.
Absolutely. Here's your public acceptance.
Woo woo. So yeah, pretty excited, but this was so powerful. I am all jazzed up and I can't wait to lead the most purposeful day. And I wish that upon each and every one of you. So thank you, Lindsay.
I love that. Yes, everyone have an amazing, amazing day, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.